Now on 4 in the last of the current series, encounters trails the mysterious Beast of Bardia.
It all began in 1987 when I listened to this tale about a mysterious creature that was said to be lurking in the jungles of West Nepal. The local people talked about it as if it was a mammoth. It was supposed to be rather like an elephant with a huge domed head and a vast body, and at night it came out of the jungle and trampled on their crops and knocked down their houses and did awful damage, and they were complaining like mad about it. And 2 years later, I was back in London when a young lady came to see me who'd been on a canoe trip on the Karnali River. And going down the river in this canoe of hers with a couple of Nepalese friends, they suddenly heard a crashing noise, and out of the jungle came this extraordinary elephant-like creature. So there were various theories about what this thing could be. But the one thing that everyone was certain about was we should go and look for it and try and find out definitely what it was. And that was what started me on this idea of organizing an expedition to investigate this monster of the Karnali Valley, or the Beast of Bardia, as it was now being called by the locals. We're here in Kathmandu, about 4,500 feet, beautiful day. And what we'll do from time to time is to have these briefings. We have a sort of less formal meeting every night where we can discuss what we've seen in the day and make the plans for the...
10 volunteers have joined this expedition to locate and identify the mysterious creature rumored to live in the jungles of Nepal. Larger than any Asian elephant, local people believe it could be a mammoth.
I'm going to ask Adrian to come in and give us an update from the scientific angle at this point.
Dr. Adrian Lister leads the scientific study. An expert on the mammoth, his search for the giants will take us thousands of kilometers west to a remote pocket of dense jungle on the border with India. The idea that a prehistoric monster could remain undiscovered until now is extraordinary. But until 40 years ago, the Nepalese plains were covered with thick forest.
And so what we're left with really is a series of islands of remaining forest habitats, which are essentially the national parks, of which the one in Bardia that we're going to study is now the largest.
For 3 days, the party follows the Kaligandaki River, driven ever deeper to the south by the trail of the lost giants. For John Blashford-Snell, the search for the giant elephants has become an obsession. He's seen them 3 times and named the largest animal Raja Gaj, king. Raja Gaj has a devoted companion, Kancha, a huge male like himself but not quite as tall. Blashford-Snell is determined to find out what the beasts of Bardia really are. Giant elephants, mammoths, or something more mysterious. At Base Camp 1, the first concrete evidence. This decaying palace was only recently rediscovered. Now in ruins, it was built by a prince for his bride 100 years ago. When she died, the building became her tomb. Giant elephants, they say, carried the marble and stone to build this palace, and it took 13,000 Nepalis to construct a pathway through the jungle to reach it. Could this be the origin of the giants we're searching for? We leave the decaying Rana Palace with its secrets. From this site, it takes us 2 days traveling further west to reach Bardia. Our camp is set on the bank of the Karnali River, and this will be our home for the next 10 days.
I do want people to remember that we are dealing with potentially dangerous animals. These are wild animals. The largest animal in the world on 4 feet is the elephant, and these are wild elephant. Although we're riding on domestic elephants, the wild ones out there are very different indeed, and they can be extremely hazardous to your health. I remember some years ago being woken up by Pradeep, and lo and behold, Raja Gaj had walked in, had broken Honey Blossom's chain and led her away into the jungle. And we went chasing after her, found what we thought was her. It turned out to be him, and we then got chased. And we had a very exciting night being chased around and around the jungle by Raja Gaj, which is not something I recommend. But if that happens, the place that you've got to go is on the beach. Now the beach is full of boulders. Elephants don't like walking, let alone running on boulders. And so you should go down on the beach. If it's a tiger, on the other hand, of course you're dealing in a different animal. Tigers love running over beaches, and that's more of a problem.
Adrian needs to record every observation in detail. The creatures have huge mounds or humps on their heads. They are said to be enormous, over 11 feet tall. That's bigger than any Asian elephant ever recorded.
And obviously one can't just walk up to an 11-foot high elephant with a tape measure and ask to measure its head. So what we're going to use is a photographic method. And in particular, I'm hoping to get photographs of each of the male animals exactly square on to the side. And from the photograph, it will then be possible to take proportions of the shape of the head relative to the size of the animal and so on. So please do take as many pictures as you can.
Bardia is one of 3 national parks in Nepal, 1,000 square kilometers crisscrossed by the Karnali River. Our search begins at dawn.
Right, you all know which animal you're riding. It's going to be 4 to an elephant this morning. I'm afraid that's going to be a bit of a squeeze, but that should make it all the more friendly.
It is 4. Yeah, 4. It's 4. Sorry.
Getting into the legless chair. I think I got to patent this.
Each elephant carries a wildlife expert who stands at the rear, as well as the driver and 3 or 4 passengers. Ram Din is an expert tracker. From his position on the back of the elephant, he acts as scout. Spotted on his way down to the river, the rare Asian one-horned rhino. The only creature he won't attack is the elephant. We stand our ground.
Okay, Ramdin, he's moved on. Let's head for the river.
By 9, the sun is up, and we're nearing our destination, an island. We keep in touch through a series of calls. In the jungle, eye contact will be impossible.
what we're looking for is signs of recent passage in this long grass. And you see the grass has flattened down. And of course you see signs of where they've been feeding, broken branches and so on. At the moment we're heading just slightly west of north. We swing around back over here. And then we'll come back onto the road.
There's a pattern to the day. The dawn start, a midday break, back to the camp at dusk. A disappointing start. We need to identify every wild elephant in this park, not just the two giants, Rajagaj and Kancha, and every day counts. It's important to keep the spirits up.
Saab's personal drink. Well, I think he's probably lurking north of here. But he could appear anywhere. And I think that the fact that we haven't seen him indicates he's out there somewhere. But there is 1,000 square kilometers of jungle. And it's like looking for a sort of golf ball in a bit of rough. It's a rather large golf ball, but it's a hell of a large piece of rough.
Our location is called a special camp. It's set up just for John Blashford-Snell's team. These 5 female elephants will take us out every day. In between, it's a full-time job keeping them fed. As well as greenery, their keepers are hard at work making elephant sandwiches. Each animal eats 100 of these packages of grass and meal every day. One of the tasks for the expedition is to identify every wild elephant in the area. Sue is a valuable member of the team. She's a fingerprint expert, a member of the Merseyside police force.
I was actually brought along to help identify the wild elephants by their ear shapes, which, as you can see, they're quite ragged. This is a domestic one, but the wild elephants are very similar. Hang on, I'll just... That's better. And I suppose the fact that I've done a bit of fingerprint work and identifying helps. It's all right.
It's likely that the giant elephant we're looking for are closely related to Asian elephants. But whether they are a different species, or a subspecies, or even a kind of prehistoric elephant, are key questions. Adrian started his research by simply comparing the head shape of Rajagaj with the mammoth.
Well, if you look at a picture like this one, when he was first seen, people got these pictures in side view of him. And in side view, he's got a very high domed head and a rather sloping back, which actually corresponds to what mammoths look like, as far as we know from the cave paintings in France and the frozen carcasses from Siberia. So there's a kind of superficial resemblance there to a mammoth, which gave some people the idea there might be a population of mammoths still living in Nepal. On closer examination, though, we can see that that similarity is somewhat superficial, because although in side view his very high head bump looks rather mammoth-like, when we see him from the front, as in this photograph, you can see that that dome actually is a double dome. It comprises 2 bumps, and that is quite different from the mammoth. The mammoth does have a very high skull, but we know from the fossil skulls of the mammoth that it was just a single dome. It's not a surprising comparison that people made, bearing in mind also the very large size of Rajagaj.
Our expedition is dependent upon the skills of Ramdin and Pradeep. Without their expertise as trackers, we will be lost. For them, JBS Special Camp is one more chance to see Raja Gaj, a creature whose mysterious appearances and disappearances have lent him a mystical quality.
He used to come and eat the salts that's around the kitchen and destroy some tents. And he used to come there and then again disappear for another maybe 3-4 months, and we never saw a sign of him.
I think he's a kind of a different animal. He's a God-gifted, I think. Yeah, he's the king, he's a Raja.
He's such a big, huge creature. And even today, even till now, people are still surprised to see him.
Raja Gaj has drawn us into the mystery. It's day 3. No sightings of any of the wild bulls. It's time to change tactics. The party splits up. Adrian will continue the search in the jungle. Blashford-Snell does some local reconnaissance. He's visiting a settlement just outside the park. Villagers here watch out for Raja Gaj all year round. If anyone can tell us where he is, they can. People here venerate the Hathi, the elephant, as a god, recognizing his power, but they also fear him.
There is one elephant. When you show him torchlight or firelight, he gets very angry. Even he comes more and more to the people.
The very big elephant, the biggest of all.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when he smells, salt.
Salt.
Yeah, salt. And he goes to that house and he try to take it out, try to eat, and he tried to break the house. Yeah. So he used to, he has done many times like that.
Yeah. Many times?
Yeah.
And have any people been hurt?
2 person has died.
2 people?
Yeah, 2 people. Because of the elephant.
Yeah. Well, it's very sad. Well, we're very sorry about it because we love people and we love elephants.
It's clear that these village people are terrified of the Beast of Bardia. We return to camp in a somber mood, unaware that Adrian's party is heading for an extraordinary meeting. The urgency of finding Raja Gaj and Kancha mounts. Adrian is joined by Ramdin. He's trying a favorite elephant haunt on the far side of the park.
Moving off. Let's get down on the ground now. Stop, no further.
The first wild elephant, Not Raja Gaj or Kancha, but an aggressive bull, Bardia Gaj. The older males could be just out of sight. Collecting dung samples from a wild elephant in a fractious mood is risky. But if Adrian is to prove that these animals are genetically distinct, he needs DNA from the living cells of the animal.
I'm just going to collect some samples from this dung. I'm taking it from the surface because that's where it will have some of his cells on it. It's a bit dry, and it should be okay. Don't need much. Well, he seems to have moved off, so that's all right, but we wouldn't have come down here if he'd been close by. We can't hear him. If he suddenly appears, we'll be back on those ones pretty quick. Hello? Oh, Ramdin? Ah, there he is. Any sign of any other elephants? Have you found anything? Any footprints? Yeah.
Footprints. A 20-inch footprint. This could be what we're looking for.
About 20 inches. There's Kancha. Yeah. Not more than 20.
I can hear he's breaking some tree,
Is he
pushing
quite
down
close?
some tree. Yeah.
Is he quite close?
Yeah, quite close.
The rest of the party have long returned to camp. As night falls, Blashford-Snell is concerned that Adrian is still in the jungle, way beyond the 6 o'clock curfew.
Ah, hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi.
We're just in time.
We've just seen
I think what you need is a Bloody Mary. Why not? Anyway, welcome back.
We've just seen something very exciting. The big one was Raja Gaj and one of the smaller ones.
Really?
And the two elephants kind of approached each other head to head.
And touched each other in the mouth and then wrapped their trunks around each other. You know, right to each other's
They
trunk.
started sort of feeling each other's mouths with their trunks. It started off very gently, just sort of moving. Then they started to jostle a little and started putting the tusks in a little bit. And then Raja Gaj sort of pushed the other one back and they moved back and forth. didn't they?
And which was the other one?
I think it was Bahadur Gaj. The one that he was a couple of feet smaller than Raja Gaj.
He's
I
getting
mean,
an aggressive little
he's an
blight,
aggressive
isn't he?
little one. He may be the next leader of the gang, to be
Well,
quite sure.
what you've seen today is one of the very rare sights. I don't know anyone else who's seen Asian elephants doing
No,
this.
it was a marvellous moment. Couldn't get any pictures because it was getting dark.
So the light was all.
But I'll never forget it. Fantastic.
All of our 5 domestic elephants are female, called Kali or lady. They're important for Adrian. He can use them as a control group against which to compare the DNA of the giants for genetic differences.
The tweezers don't seem to be closing very well.
Let's have a look at those tweezers.
Shove those in the way. We bought these tweezers for the dung, which they're easy for. I wasn't thinking in terms of... Yeah, this is a better pair, I think.
The dark bristly ones, are you not bothered?
Doesn't matter, as long as you get the follicle out. Have you got one? Right, okay, pretty good. Put the tweezers in your dirty bag.
Is that enough from her?
Any part of the animal's got DNA, any living part of the animal, so we collect dung from the wild ones because that's the only thing that's available to us. But since these animals are staying here, are standing in front of us and they're tame, I could take saliva from their mouth, I can take a little skin scrape, but a hair, just plucked cleanly out, has got a few cells at the bottom which are called the follicle, and they'll have DNA in, so I'm just having a few hairs of the elephant in alcohol. and we'll get the DNA out of those in the lab. I could have taken dung, but it's messier, and I don't like this reputation of being Dr. Dung, or Professor Poop, as some people call it, so I don't only do that. That's not all I do.
I was with Adrian,
Yeah.
and we found Raja Gaj. Fantastic sight. He was showing his male dominance. And we were then told by the naturalist that we had to go because it was getting too dark.
Why can't we stay on out at night? You know, we are on elephants. Our elephants, you know, can move about in the dark. And besides, the nights are so clear with this full moon, you'd see anything. You'd see the one-eyed snake, you know, right below the elephant if you look.
You'd be tiger feed.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, maybe.
No, on the elephant
But
you'd be
no,
all
that's
right.
a joke.
You'd be
Yeah,
all right.
you know, you're kidding.
I understand that they've got the army looking, all the rangers in the park, all contacts have been notified looking for Raja Gaj.
If you mark him electronically, you can follow him on the internet, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, maybe you don't get approval from the Nepalese authorities.
Under the www.
Despite the pressure of time, Blashford-Snell keeps his nerve. Experience of Raja Gaj helps.
It's amazing that an animal weighing 7 tons or so can just disappear off the face of the earth. But in this huge sal forest, that's quite possible. And as we've seen, of course, he can hide in deep shadow or behind some trees, and you can walk right past him. I once passed him 30 feet away. So he's bound to be in here somewhere. I don't think he'd have walked off the reserve, otherwise the villagers would tell us. But the main thing is to find out where the old man's gone, because he is the real target.
Adrian is relatively happy. His sightings of the 2 huge males have clarified what they might be. Something even more ancient than the last mammoths to live on this planet.
Well, Raja Gaj and his friends in this area are clearly part of the Asian elephant species, which is Elephas maximus as the Latin name, but also clearly an unusual population within that species. But one very interesting thing which I came across is that there are some skulls of fossil relatives of the Asian elephant. This is another fossil elephant species which is found actually in the rocks in this very area that we're in now, in the Siwalik Hills. They've found fossils of elephant remains which are believed to be the direct ancestors of the living Asian elephant. These fossils are about 2 million years old, and they've been called Elephas hysudricus. And if you compare this reconstruction of Elephas hysudricus with Raja Gaj, there's a striking resemblance. So it seems to me that although Raja Gaj is not a mammoth, he may actually be rather similar to another fossil elephant species, in fact a kind of throwback to his ancestor of about 2 million years ago. I'm not suggesting that Elephas hysudricus has been sort of living unchanged in this part of Nepal for the last 2 million years. I think it's more likely that a rather ancient genetic combination has been thrown up again, perhaps due to isolation in this area. But it's quite an unusual finding.
Elephas hysudricus, a creature which coexisted with the mammoth. In an attempt to gather more DNA and prove his theory, Adrian travels even further west to the white grass plains, Sukila Fanta. These plains are home for the last remaining herd of rare swamp deer. Adrian has news that giant elephants have been seen here too. The most legendary of these was Chula Hati, reported to be as big as Raja Gaj. A first encounter with Chula Hati 35 years ago changed the life of the only man to film him, Peter Byrne.
I had a client, this is down in the White Grass Plains, and we were waiting for tiger, and we were sitting in an open jeep, and this elephant came up, and to me it was just another elephant. And normally Asian elephants, as soon as they sense a person or something like a jeep, they'll stop, they'll look, they'll go away. And this chap came up and stood there and looked at us. He actually stood there and looked at us for 3 or 4 minutes, close up, which is extremely unusual for an elephant. So he was a different elephant, always. And then over the course of the years, having seen him once, I began to recognize him. He was enormously muscular, very short, thick tusks, and a very heavy neck. And then, faintly at that time, the beginning of these two enormous lobes on the top of the head, these two bumps, which developed over the years, which in time became distinctive, so that even if seen at a distance, we could recognize him. So he looked different from other elephants. And in fact, he looked something like Rajagaj, the elephant of Bardia. And sadly, in March of 1994, he put his foot on a bomb. It blew his foot off, and he walked to a forest pool and lay down, and over the course of 4 or 5 days, died beside the pool. And it was very sad. We were all upset about it. Because of all the elephants that this had to happen to, it had to happen to this magnificent animal, Tula Hati.
The tragic death of Tula Hati makes the need to identify these creatures even more urgent.
On this side?
Where John is standing.
Yeah, right there.
Well, let's start there then.
All right.
Peter Byrne has been trying to attract some serious scientific interest in these animals for 25 years. He's located the grave of a large bull elephant. DNA from here could tell us whether the giants in this area are genetically linked.
My guess is about 15 inches they may start coming across something.
Well, I've dug up fossil elephants before, but not modern ones like this.
Adrian needs good solid bone for his DNA tests.
And then you think that after 16 years...
I'm pretty sure that all the muscle and tendon will have gone, but we'll see. This is all femur.
Okay.
So there we've got the whole femur, and I'll measure the length of that femur because we can estimate the height of the animal from that. It's pretty rough and ready, but it'll do for the purpose. That's quite big, 114 centimetres.
Okay.
Not such a small animal.
A skull in good condition would be a crucial piece of evidence.
The side of the skull coming up, right.
In a dreadful state, isn't it?
Well, it's 17 years old, isn't it?
Yeah. And the top bit, which is what we wanted, is smashed to smithereens. That's the eye hole. This is the back of the skull. That's where it joins on. It's like a giant jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
With some of the pieces missing.
It's a puzzle that these crumbling bones cannot solve. A bitter disappointment for both Peter Byrne and Adrian. This creature could prove a link between Tula Hati and Rajagaj, but without a complete skull to measure, it provides no clue to the origin of the giants. Back in Bardia, the days are ticking by. But Adrian hears good news by the morning fire. The camp has had nocturnal visitors.
Well, evidently Pradeep said that the...
2 wild elephants came into camp last night, I know. Yeah.
Well, no, I think he said there was another 2 as well.
What, 4? That's amazing. I think they follow our elephants back to camp.
Well, they do.
They sort of wait in the bushes till we've gone to bed.
It's Badagaj, again displaying his bad temper. This time, we follow him.
Yes, that's the future leader of the gang, all right.
Bad-tempered beast.
Hey, 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 hey.
The aggressive young bull is angry. Unless we can find a way around him, we will never see the real giants.
Well, we've just encountered a mock charge by a wild elephant, which was quite exciting. We were just watching him, and he got a little bit irritable at our presence and suddenly came towards us. And it was quite an exciting moment. My heart rate certainly went up a bit, but our elephants and their drivers know what to do, and we moved out of the way. And then he came at us again, and we moved a bit further, and we were out of danger. But that was quite an exciting moment, I must say.
Badhagaj, a new giant in Bardia, determined to stand guard for the king, Rajagaj. Despite the setback, a row of elephant ears is proof that sightings are building up. But the prospects are not good. Even Pradeep is anxious about Rajagaj.
Well, the news is we still haven't found him. You see, I've sent people all around the park looking for him, and I haven't gotten any news of Rajagaj yet. I'm a little worried right now is because we're pressed for time. Time is running out. But I'm quite positive that we'll get him tomorrow or day after tomorrow.
Well, I didn't get anything this morning, really. I mean, no dung, no footprints, no measurements. By the time we got to Kancha and the other wild elephant, Kancha was playing up. He was a bit aggressive, so we didn't want to get down onto the ground. So no data. So not really a successful morning from my point of view. And time's running out a bit now.
Elephants like to travel by road. Following a hunch, Pradeep and Ramdin set out to find out whether Rajagaj has bypassed our camp completely. The first piece of evidence, elephant dung.
It's fresh. Yeah, about 10 inch long. The size is really. गौड़ा चौक खुदा ताली ये तो बाटो क्या भाल दिए
The height of an elephant is calculated by multiplying the footprint measurement by 6. With a footprint of 22 inches, Rajagaj is 11 foot to the shoulder, the largest Asian elephant in the world.
22.
Yeah, 22.
22 across. Yes.
Yeah.
This is Rajagaj. 22.
So it has gone to the Khodatal.
So it must have gone towards Khodatal, right?
Whole road is black.
Further along the road, more evidence of his displeasure. The telltale signs again.
Must be Rajagaj.
Looking at the tree and the size of the tree, we reckon that he's very, very irritated. Look at the size of the tree. He's knocked off a huge tree. And as it is, Rajagaj doesn't like anything man-made inside the park. You saw the signpost. I'm quite sure that he's really, really angry, and maybe it was because of that falling that we did last night. We really made him angry.
Morning, Pradeep. How do you get on?
Not bad.
Where is the old blighter?
Well, our initial plan was to go towards the lodge area and to check with the villagers whether Rajagaj had gone inside the field to graze. But so as we were trekking, we found Rajagaj heading towards the highway.
So Pradeep was right. Rajagaj has outsmarted us. He's circled the camp and may be heading right out of the area. Without Rajagaj, Adrian's research will be incomplete. At operational headquarters, Blashford-Snell is working on strategy with Gary, the camp doctor.
But I have a feeling he'll move where there's more water, being the dry season, and I think what we'll find is he'll come down to the Babai, where there is water, because elephants have to bathe every day. They drink a hell of a lot. He's done this before to us, but in the middle of the study, it's rather a shame when your prime suspect suddenly walks off stage. And that's what he's done.
We can get a posse together and we can go and look for him.
Well, I think we will. I think what we'll do is we'll go up to the Babai Valley, but I think we'll pick up the track if he is there fairly quickly.
The search party leaves, but our lady elephants remain. It's their first real break. Adrian begins to reconcile dung and hair samples for DNA analysis.
Well, these are specimens scraped from the surface of dung balls dropped by the wild elephants out in the field. As the dung balls pass down the animal's gut, they're bound to have picked up a few cells from the animal's gut wall. So although the dung is, of course, 90% bacteria and grass and all sorts of other stuff, it's going to have a little bit of elephant DNA on the outside. Traditionally, it's been thought, on the basis of the anatomy of the animals, that the Asian elephant is more closely related to the mammoth, and the African elephant is a more distant cousin. That's something that we're in the process of testing at the moment in the laboratory, and there are several labs around the world working on that. And I hope these samples will contribute to that study.
For those who didn't go off with Blashford-Snell, it's a welcome break in a fairly relentless search program. It's all too soon over.
I think it was entirely successful.
What do you mean by that? You found Raja Gaj?
We found where he's been.
Did you?
Yes, we did. He reached Denmartal the day before yesterday in the afternoon, fighting the life out of the army post, and then turned west and headed, he should have, well, if he's kept marching in the way he was marching, he would have reached the Karnali River sometime last night. But, yeah, I mean, he should be back on his way back here, if he's not back already.
We're hoping, isn't it?
Positive reports, but no one has yet sighted our target. We are down to our last 24 hours.
Yes, but I gather that Kancha and Bahadur Gaj are in the area, and that footprints of Raja Gaj were found headed in this direction, out in the Babai. So I hope I'll get some more photos and measurements.
What did you eat?
I do hope so, because they're quite important, really. There's only 2 or 3 points on my growth graph at the moment, and I need more than that to convince people there's something unusual about these animals. So ever hopeful.
He's facing towards the south, towards the north.
It's Kancha, giant number 2.
So if Kancha is round, I'm sure Raja goes around here somewhere. I think I hear a tree being broken on the left hand.
Back there in the tree line behind Kancha, there's another large bull.
There is another giant bull, but which one? Once again, our way is blocked, this time by Kancha.
Kancha acts like a guardian angel for Raja Gaj, so there's a possibility that he's going up to protect him.
It's Raja Gaj.
Two months later, at the University of London lab, the first DNA analysis is due.
Hi.
Oh, hi, Adrian. All right.
How's it going?
Okay, this is the second set of samples.
Right. Have you got any results on the first ones yet?
Yeah, amplified them.
Yeah.
And I'll show you here, actually.
Right, so these are the sequencing gels.
That's right, yeah.
Right.
You see they come out nice and clear. So
each of these lanes is a separate individual.
The DNA sequence is a genetic blueprint for each cell in the animal's body. Mark confirms Adrian's suspicions. The elephants of Bardia are not mammoths.
here we've got the dung samples, and I've also included some mammoth sequences from earlier work.
Right.
And as you can see, they're not grouping in with the mammoths.
Right, so the mammoth form an outgroup separate from all the Asian elephants.
That's right, yeah.
And the Nepalese dung is clearly within the Asian elephant group.
That's right, yeah.
But the cluster of almost identical DNA on the elephant side shows that his more radical guess may be right, that the giants of Bardia may be a throwback to something more ancient than the mammoths, the result of a genetic bottleneck.
A small number of animals in an isolated area, as a result of inbreeding, can sometimes throw up unusual forms, unusual genetic combinations. And if the unusual size and head shape has a genetic component, it may be as a result of their isolation and an effect of inbreeding. In other words, the throwing out of unusual genes. It's even conceivable that what I've called the throwback, you know, to the ancestral kind of elephant could be a product of the same phenomenon.
Adrian's work on measurement throws up the biggest surprise: concrete evidence of a genetic explanation for the two giants. He's found that the Bardia beasts, the bulls, are exceptional. Their cranial humps are significantly larger than any other Asian elephant population.
Namaste!
Oh, hello, John.
Adrian.
Hi,
how are you?
Nice to see you. Do sit down.
What have you discovered?
Well, I've been plotting out all the data on the elephants.
This is the moment Blashford-Snell has been waiting for. By comparing the Nepalese giants with other elephants and plotting the height of their cranial humps on a graph, Adrian has been able to prove that they do form a group which is unique.
Right at the top of that curve with their unusually high crania. So I think what we're seeing here basically is that what's the exception in other elephant populations is the rule in Nepal, and that's what marks them out as special. We've got probably the largest body size of Asian elephant anywhere in the world, including certainly the biggest bull now living in Raja Gaj. And something in that area, whether it's the environment or the genetics or a combination of the two, we're not quite sure, something has produced this special kind of Asian elephant of very large size. And a feature which is rare in other populations is unusually high head dome. is common here. There's something very special about them.
Rajagaj, a king with mysterious origins. A giant creature emerging from our ancient past, propelled into this century by a unique set of circumstances. Our glimpse into a world 2 million years old.
Encounters returns to Channel 4 in the new year.
On every